As you may or may not know, we are back from Vegas, right? We're back from Vegas. The TFT Vegas Open. It was like a whole fucking shebang. Riot basically had everybody come out, right? All these like crazy ass games, trying to win like 100K for the victor of like the 512 player tourney, right? Like absolute fucking crazy shit. Basically, for the way that Vegas went down for me, my only goal, like the whole time at Vegas, was to meet as many people as possible. That was like the biggest goal. Obviously, like I wanted to play well. I wanted to try to win the tourney. But because how RNG the format was, like, we have to be like realistic, right? Like that wasn't like gonna be the case. Like I was like, I'm probably not gonna win, but I'm just gonna like try to chill, like see as many people as I can. Cause like everybody's flying in, like people from Japan, people from France, people from fucking Germany, right? Like all these like TFT people that I've known of, and they know who I am. It's just that we never, you know, got a chance to see face to face. So day one, fly out to Vegas is on Thursday, right? We fly out to Vegas, and I'm flying with my IRLs. I'm flying with people that I went to college with, right? These are people who they've known me for years. Like they've known me before social media, before TikTok, before Twitch, like all of that. Like it was basically just me and like all my like me and 3 other guys. So 4 of us total, right? And then one of them, he's actually known me since like middle school. Like we've known each other for like years. But yeah, so basically we all fly out. They're from Logan, which is over in Boston, right? We fly all the way to Vegas as a group, all 4 of us, and we make it touchdown. It's like noon. So the first thing we do is like, okay, it's noon. We're fucking hungry, right? Immediately starving. We're like, what the fuck do we eat? And to be honest, we were supposed to plan this shit out like months ago because we knew we were gonna go to Vegas for like months. But 2 months out, I remember Oren would text the group chat, be like, okay guys, what are we doing in Vegas? Are we gonna go to a show? Are we gonna go to like X restaurant? Like what are we doing? And I was like, we don't know. Like it's 2 months away. Like we'll figure it out, right? And then 1 month later, Oren is the only one asking the group chat like, yo, like what the fuck are we doing? And then we're like, it's a month away. Like we'll figure it out later. And then we fucking were in Vegas and it's lunchtime and we're like, what are we doing? And we're all like, I don't know. Like we're just jerking off. So we actually ended up going to In-N-Out. And the reason why, because especially if you're from the West Coast, you might be like, oh, In-N-Out, like why the fuck would you go to In-N-Out? Like who gives a shit, right? I have never had In-N-Out like my whole fucking life. It was something that I had never eaten before. It was something I've always wanted to try because I know there's like the Shake Shack In-N-Out rivalry, but I've had Shake Shack before, but I've never had In-N-Out because I've never been on the West Coast before. This is all new to me, right? So I was like, I have to try it. Anyways, we get In-N-Out, hit back up to the hotel, and then at this point, it's hitting like the evening time. And for those of you who don't know, Riot Games prepared a pre-party, but it might have been just the competitors, but there was a pre-party planned, and basically we went to the pre-party, just me. I don't think my friends could get in, that's why I didn't bring them, but because they weren't going to the TFT LAN event anyways, they were just there to have a good time, and I was there to like TFT plus my friends. But basically, we go to the pre-party, and then at the pre-party, as soon as I walk in through the door, as soon as I walk in through the front door, I see a very familiar bald head, and I was like, oh shit, that's Sub-Zero. I fucking immediately tap him on the shoulder and we started like talking about like fucking like TFT and whatever, right? And eventually the pre-party just boiled down to watching the show match, which was like Mort Dog, Emily Wang, Robin Songs, Kiyun, Disguised Toast, Box, like a bunch of influencers, like really like the top echelon of Twitch streamers, right? Were like playing in the show matches or whatever. And like Sub-Zero and I were like kind of watching, but to be honest, like as a spectator, it wasn't like that interesting. So we were just chatting, just talking about TFT or whatever. And then eventually I get approached by Frobe. And Frobe, for those of you who don't know, is a French TFT YouTuber, but he makes YouTube content primarily in English. So we were just, it was me, Frobe, and his friend. I don't know if they're an item, but they were together very often. But we were just like chatting it up. I've never seen Frobe before in real life. Like we've spoken before, but I don't think we've even spoken before. We've spoken through like Twitch chat. We've never actually like interacted. But basically, I'm talking to Frobe, I'm talking to his friend, and like we're just having a blast, right? Just talking about TFT, just talking about whatever, right? I learned about the Clap Sante comp, which if you don't know, it's a comp that revolves around Cassante 3. And you build Hodge IE, and then it's basically Clapio, but worse. And it's a thing. You can try it out. But the funniest thing is that there's a bit of a language barrier, right? Because I speak some French. I understand some French, but I don't speak enough to like converse fluently, right? That's not the level that I'm at. So I'm trying to understand everything that's going between back and forth, even though we're talking in English and it's still a little confusing, right? And then eventually it turns out the clap sante comp was revolutionized by a different French TFT player who wanted the comp to go viral, didn't know how to, so he took his comp, wrote it out in French, threw it into Google Translate so that it would spit it out in Japanese, and then he would post it to Twitter. And that's how the French community learned about this composition. Because they saw this broken Japanese Cassante comp and they were like, oh, it's in Japanese, it must be good. And then people started playing it in like the European servers apparently. Next day, TFT LAN. This is the first day of TFT LAN. This is where we're like waking up at like 10 a.m. Nobody really knows the exact time this shit's starting. It's like roughly 10 or 11 a.m. I was kind of waiting for just like somebody to tweet something or somebody to like start streaming something. And then I was like, okay, like the LAN's starting. I'm gonna get ready. Ended up hitting up the LAN 11 a.m. I was early because basically for the competitors, there's so many of us. There's 512 competitors, right? There's two groups. Starts at 9 a.m., starts at 3 p.m. And I was in the starts at 3 p.m. group. So what ended up happening was I ended up just like kind of walking around the venue, kind of like spectating some games, but then I was also just like, it was funny because I remember the way that the venue is set up, right? Is that there's a bunch of computers, bunch of PCs, and there's room around the PCs. So if you know where your favorite player is playing, you can just stand behind them and you can watch their perspective. So it's like Twitch chat IRL, right? So I remember walking to Rainplosion, watching her perspective, watching Philip, watching Joe Bookmark, like a bunch of like top players. I was gonna watch Setsuko's POV, but then behind fucking Setsuko was a fucking swarm of people. Like, I felt kind of bad because the headphones that they give you are not noise canceling. So you can hear everything people behind you are saying while you're playing. So I think Setsuko even talked about this, but basically he was getting Twitch chatted, backseated IRL, and there was like nothing you could do about it. And it was just like a crowd, it was a swarm. He was sitting in a corner and there's like a swarm of people around it while he's trying to play, which is like fucking awful. So I'm just like spectator mode, like walking around, whatever. And I'm getting pulled aside by like some random things, like small interviews, small content pieces. Also just like people coming up to me to say hi and like wanting to take pictures, which is fucking surreal. Fruit Kicker, who's in the chat right now, fucking pulled me aside. And this fucker didn't tell me who he was. I recognize his name. I know his name in my chat because this guy was toxic when he first started chatting my shit. And then this fucker pulls me aside. He's like, hey man, I really like your content, whatever. Do you mind taking a photo with me? And I was like, sure, like of course, I'd love to, whatever. But I was in a bit of a rush because I was kind of like jolting in between back and forth like a bunch of different things. So after taking the photo, I was like, hey, thank you so much, I appreciate it. He gave me like a bag of nerd clusters, which if you don't know, like 2 months ago, I accidentally killed like a family-sized bag of nerd gummy clusters, and I I shot out like half my body weight. Like, it was not a good time. But basically, this fucker was like trying to poison me at the event is all I'm trying to say. And then this guy has the audacity to post it in our goddamn Discord. The photo that we took together where I look like, by the way, I look like a fucking chump because I'm rushed, like I'm going between like places all the time. He posts it in our fucking Discord and he goes, aha, by the way, I met him. Like what? Like, what the fuck? You could have said it was you. That was basically day one. And then I eventually played in the tourney. I got round one, which was kind of unfortunate. I was off by 1 point of placements, which just kind of sucked. But I honestly played as well as I could have, except for the last game. I kind of inted the last one, but anyways, that's basically like the majority of day one, like summarized. Day two was the big one. Day two LAN was like really fucking like chaotic for me at least, because I'm basically kind of like spectator mode. Like they have games put away to the side, things like 1v1 Mastermind, which if you don't know is just like you control 4 PCs at a time and you have to play against one other person and it's a 1v1. I turbo smirked it, by the way. I was like 1 off Sonar 3. I had 10 KDA on one board. I almost had Jin 3 on another board. I fucking killed it. But anyways, I participated in the Mastermind event, win the deck, and then I was kind of walking around. I was lost, didn't really know what to do. And guess who pulls me aside out of the blue? My VIP Miso who I've only met one other time. I met her in person at TC4 when she introduced me to herself. She pulls me aside because the people who are working at Tencent, like the owners of Riot Games, like China, right? Basically, she pulls me aside. She goes, "Hey, do you want to do this interview thing?" And I was like, "Fuck it, sure." I'm saying yes to everything. I don't give a fuck. So I was like, "Sure, like why not? I don't care." And basically, they pulled me aside, and then they take me outside of where like the big the concert is, into the hallway, into like a corner, like some random ass fucking corner, like behind the bathrooms. And I'm there, like, why? I don't know why I'm getting interviewed, but okay. And then as I'm standing there, just kind of waiting around, because I guess they're also interviewing like the Korean players who came from international. I believe one of them was named Panda. I don't know who he is though. But and then eventually, while we're waiting, guess who fucking pops up out of thin air? Like literally just the most random TFT players. It was Shimapen and 2 other Japanese players. International, by the way. And these are players who I actually play tested set 10 with, because I was playing with the Japanese people, just because I know Didi. And Didi and I have like talked here and back and forth a little bit before, who's also like a top Japanese streamer slash player. But it was like Shimapen with like this guy named Kimi and another guy, I believe it is Nukumaru. Nukumaru, I think, is his name. But Nukumaru, and then Hitamago or Haitamago. It's like the 4 of them. There's like 4 of them. But basically, I recognized Shimapen immediately because he's the only one who streams with a cam on. Didi, even though I've interacted with this guy before and I was playing so much set 10 playtest with him, never seen his face before. I don't know. Kimi, I talked to him before. He's like the second most person I talked to during the playtest. Don't know what his face looks like. Same with Hitamago. I don't know who he was before this. And then Nukumaru, who was also I was playing with in playtest, never seen his face before. So I only recognized Shimapen's face, and I was like, "Holy shit, are you Shimapen?" And like in Japanese, this is all in Japanese. I'm like, "Holy shit, are you Shimapen?" Like, "I'm Kai." And then he was like, "Oh my god, you're fucking Kai." And then like we're like, "Oh shit," like we all know each other, right? But we just like we didn't recognize each other, right? And we ended up like talking in Japanese, all very formal. It's like, "Oh my god, like hajimemashite," you know, like this like Japanese shit. And then like we're all like getting friendly, whatever. And then eventually we get interviewed by like the Tencent people, right? Getting interviewed, talking about like, why did you start playing TFT? What are your goals with TFT? What do you do? Like, what's your job? And outside TFT, and like yada yada yada. And basically like we were mostly interviewed by what's her name? I think her name was Kate. But we were mostly getting interviewed by Kate, like talking a little bit about not only just like, you know, these interview questions, but also like how Riot Games and TFT specifically is growing in China. And they are fucking like, it's such a culture difference. Basically, like with China, TFT is humongous. Incredible amount of active users. The way that they approach TFT in terms of social media is very different from us. In America, we're on Twitter. We're on it's just Twitter. Like we only use Twitter, right? It's Twitter and Twitch. Like that's it. And then for China, they're on Douyin. Like Douyin is huge for TFT TikTok apparently, or TFT TikToks. Douyin is the Chinese version of TikTok, but they have a lot of fucking like Douyin content. They have a lot of content on a separate app that is basically Twitter and your LoL chess combined, where you can see your Valorant, you can see your League of Legends, you can see your TFT, you can see like all these different like Riot Games, your match history, plus like posts from other people, guides, content, general, just regular stuff you might see on Twitter, right? But it's all like Riot Games. And they have like a whole separate app dedicated to that. And then in that app, you can do other things too. Like you can buy cosmetics, you can buy chibis, you can buy like whatever through the app, and it's linked to your account. They have, it's like a whole thing all under Tencent. It's absolutely insane. It was so unreal. Just to give you an idea, like how different like their social media shit is too. Like for example, TFT TikToks are like not really a thing right now. Like there's some people who do it, but it's really hard. A lot of editing involved. No one has really figured out a formula that works well yet. Like unlike Valorant, like Valorant has sort of like a standard formula that's been figured out. TFT doesn't really have it yet. So Douyin TikToks, for example, there was one that she showed me where it's like basically some person is rapping a comp in Chinese over the in-game music. And I remember hearing that, thinking like, that is so creative. In English, you are gonna get flamed. that is cringe as fuck. But in Chinese, it kind of worked. And I was like, wow. Like, they have like consistent Douyin content. They have consistent like all this shit with like their separate app and everything. I remember being like blown away. Apparently they don't even use Twitter. It's like not a thing. I don't know if it's banned over there. But anyways, that was like the big thing that happened on day 2. And after that, it was like still like hanging out, like doing the games or whatever. And then eventually, I linked up with Saber. And Saber, I have been sort of periodically seeing like this whole time. Like we saw each other at the pre-party. We went gambling with Zach and whatever. But then I saw Saber again at the end of the thing, and he was like, "Hey, it's like 5 p.m. Trying to eat food?" And I was like, "Yeah, fuck it, like why not?" And he was like, "All right, bet, whatever, let's go eat food." And I didn't realize it was like a whole group thing, which is good. Like it's good. I want to meet new people, right? Like the whole goal, this entire time again, is to meet like a bunch of new people if possible, right? It's Saber, Silverfuse, me, Sub-Zero, this guy who works at Riot, who I don't remember his name because it was very like Nordic. I don't know what the fuck his name was. Him, and a couple other people. Jasuki was there. If you know who she is, she's also a TFT streamer. And like a couple other people were there as well. Like a bunch of other people. And we all ended up going to grab food. Oh, Zach was there too. But yeah, a bunch of people were there. And then we basically all, as a huge collective, are just walking, trying to find a place to eat. And eventually settle down in this like food court-esque area. And then basically in this food court-esque area, you can get whatever. You can get drinks, you can get Italian food, you can get whatever. So me, being the alcohol enjoyer that I am, ended up getting a glass of wine, along with Zach, who ended up getting a cocktail, and the right guy, who ended up getting his own beer. And then everybody got their own food or whatever. But keep in mind, this is dinner time. I have not eaten this whole fucking time. And I'm thinking, yo, save money. Drink on an empty stomach. Genius mode. So I didn't end up eating anything. And my dinner was 2 glasses of wine and the tequila shot that Zach had bought for the whole table. I'm just saying, I feel like I had some very good takes that the table may or may not have agreed with. But everybody was laughing, so I feel like, who cares? I'm just saying, I feel like I was spitting facts. And I feel like the table was not appreciating my wisdom. Lightweight icy. I'm drinking on a completely starving, absolutely famished, empty stomach. Also, I hadn't drank in a really long time. So, anyways, a little lighter than usual, alright? But I was chilling. I was being chilling. But basically, at the end of the night, everybody ended up going to Cirque du Soleil. I didn't tag along. I was like really tired. I think Jess also dipped as well. But I went back to my hotel room. I knocked. Wake up. Day 3. Day 3 of the Vegas land. We are back. And day 3, I did not know what the plan was. I was originally going to walk over to day 3 land with Saber, because it turned out, by sheer coincidence, we were staying in the same hotel. So I texted him like an hour before we were gonna dip. Yo, you up? Like, I'm gonna go grab breakfast. You wanna come grab breakfast with me? Don't know, Wald. 15 minutes before we're supposed to dip. At this point, I'm fed. I'm chilling. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll go a little early. Who cares? I call him because he still hasn't answered my text. I call Saber. No response. So I'm thinking, you know what? This guy got 4 hours of sleep the night before. Probably like 2 hours of sleep last night. Dude's knocked out. So I'm saying, fuck it. I just shoot him a text. I'm gonna walk over to the venue early. I'll see you there. Go head over to the venue. I don't know anybody who's there yet. I think Sub-Zero wasn't there yet. I don't think anybody I was particularly close to was there yet. Frobe was busy with the French broadcast, and he was like the 3rd closest person that I was there with, so I didn't know what he was doing. So I just booked it straight to the player lounge. And for those of you who don't know, the player lounge is this sort of exclusive, I use that term lightly, exclusive, like basically behind a curtain lounge. Where if you're competing in the event, you just flash your competitor pass and you can just go into the back and you can just like do whatever, chill. There's a huge projector. You can watch the finals on the projector. A lot of comfy seats. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, might as well just chill here or whatever, right? Right before the series starts, guess who fucking walks into the player lounge? It's fucking Ashmu. And Ashmu, I had briefly interacted with 2 days prior. Briefly, we had talked, like, just talked a little bit because he was there with like a bunch of other people there and a bunch of creators, and we just kind of like vibed immediately, just started talking or whatever. We make eye contact. We do the guy thing. We do the nod, right? We do the nod. And then he walks over to me. We start talking. I'm like, hey, like, how you feeling? You feeling nervous or whatever? You know what the first thing this guy says to me? He goes, nah, I'm not that nervous. You know, like, it's a good thing to be nervous. You know, I'm an emotional guy. I need to feel the emotions. And I remember hearing that. I remember thinking, like, you know what? Like, sure, whatever, emotional guy. I was like, all right, simp, like, relax. And then, whatever. And then he basically, like, went his way. Went over to the main stage, started to play. I didn't realize he literally meant he is an emotional fucking guy. If you watch the final 8, the final lobby of the series, and you saw Ashmukam, this guy is, like, sulking in his chair. He's fucking like 2 inches away from his monitor at times. He's like celebrating. He's like angry at times. I didn't realize this guy was an emotional mess whenever he plays TFT. And basically, as we're watching the series in the player lounge, it got to the point where, hey, we're hitting game 4, game 5, even game 6. Humbug with his fucking last stand miracle comeback. It was getting to the point where people in the player lounge were like, holy shit, it's getting fucking hype. So we would exit the player lounge, and as soon as you exit the player lounge, you could see the spectators. You can see all the spectators. All of them are sitting. Well, I mean, at this point, half are standing, and like cheering, screaming. People are losing their voices. It was so fucking hype. It was like I can't express the volume at which people were screaming at. It was to the point where you're almost like, I kind of want to like low-key like cover my ears, because it was getting absolutely insane. People are screaming. People are in lab coats cheering for Humbug because he's part of like the lab study group, and they're all there trying to support him, cheering him on with that last stand final comeback. There's like, the energy was insane. So you can imagine that this is the energy that everyone's bringing, and this is still like game 4. This is game 4 when the Yone swiped that shit, and it turned like what was supposedly going to be the end of the series into game 5, right? So we're watching this shit going down, and as soon as it's like, hey, the fights, this might be the last fight of the fucking series, everyone's sprinting out of the fucking spectator and out of the fucking competitor lobby, or whatever it's called, the fucking spectator lounge, and we're all like, we fucking book it to the spectator, and all cheering, screaming, everyone's going crazy, right? And the energy is fucking unreal. It was so fucking insane. And so basically this happened like 3 times in a row, because if you're watching the series, you'd understand that, like, hey, we thought it was gonna end here, it didn't end here, and it just kept happening and happening and happening. And then eventually in the final fucking fight, Milala wins out against Humbug and then wins out the entire series, and the fucking stadium went absolutely apeshit. It was so unbelievably loud. It was everybody screaming, everyone's recording on their phones, like, it was such a fucking spectacle to witness. It was so... I never thought TFT could get so hype until the TFT LAN. Because the energy, being there in person, and even as someone like myself who hated the checkmate format, who was like, oh, like, you know, but like, you know, the person who should win is the person who should, you know, averages the best score, you know? That's how it should be. But the checkmate format, when it becomes hype, it gets so hype. And like, I will defend the checkmate format for like the rest of competitive TFT. It's the type of thing that you don't get to experience very often in like a lifetime. So getting to experience that was absolutely surreal. But yeah, ended up all that shit going down at the end, and then day 3 basically over. I go grab food with Zach, Saber, and actually funny enough, Miso tagged along. Us 4, we ended up grabbing food at this like random like southern diner. It was like in the food court. And then I booked it to the hotel, flew back. Now we're home. So that was basically like the Vegas LAN event. It was fucking sick as shit. And like, I'm gonna be honest. I think back on it and I'm like, I already miss it a lot. Like, I wish, it's crazy enough to say it was a 3-day long event, but I wish it went longer. I wish there was more time for us to like talk to more people. Like, I didn't even get to see like Soju or like any of the DSG squad. I didn't even get a chance to meet Mortdog. I didn't get a chance to see like a bunch of other people while I was there. And I was just like, I feel like even though I had so much time to see so many people, and I felt like I was going here and there and getting pulled everywhere, there's still so many people I didn't get a chance to interact with. But yeah, it was fucking sick. Like, the next LAN, no matter where it is, it's gonna be sick as fuck. You are 100% gonna miss out if you don't go. And the fact that they are even already confirming the fact that there's going to be another one is insane. So I'm pretty sure as soon as those tickets go on sale, like, you should buy it. Spectator or not, I think the experience is worth it. Because even if you get day one, I think they'll do a much better job this time around, like, providing things to do. But then on top of that, also just watching the finale in person, it almost felt like watching Worlds. Like, that's how hype it was.